Hello, end of winter 2025 semester. This is Taeyun. I'm gonna invite you to my last day of school for the winter semester. So this is filmed sometime in late April of 2025. We got these few plants from the hardware store. It's been really nice to finally have some stability, to have some plants. We begun working on some farming ideas for the future. On the way to work, I like to listen to podcast. This is one of my favorite, which is the Dialogues by Helen Molesworth. So I walk down the Cass Avenue. My walk to school is about 20 minutes. There are a few cute shops on the way, some vintage shops, nice Italian deli that has like a really nice sandwich and cheese and wine. That place seems to be always busy with people, even in very cold days. So this is late April, but it was still pretty chilly, so I had to wear a heavy coat. Here's one of my favorite things around Cass Avenue. The steam that comes out of these underground tunnels are always like so magical. I learned that these steams are actually produced in that giant factory that's still functional, and I think it's like 100 years old. There's the Detroit Commons, which is a community space that seems to have pretty good activities. I haven't been to any yet, but I plan to. So this is what my building looks like. It's called the Old Main because it was like the old main building of the Wayne State University. And I'm getting ready for my class, which was the interactivity last day of the class, so there were student presentation. There's Noah, who's the lab monitor, who helps out with cleaning the room and managing the facility. One of the things that I did when I joined the university last year was updating our technical infrastructure. So getting new video projectors, sound systems, a lot of computers and printers and other kinds of technical equipments that we need. So it's been a lot of shopping, testing, plugging things in, inventorying and organizing old things. So I've been teaching two classes this semester, and one of which is called interactivity, which is essentially like kind of introduction to creative coding and history and theory of immersive interactive art. The other class is called Advanced Experimental Video Game, and that one is critical look into the culture and art of video games and making a video essay about it, and also creating a board game of your own or large-scale urban game. Both classes had a pretty interesting combination of students and guest speakers and different lectures that I did. I think I'm having a really interesting reflection on what it means to teach technical topics to artists and designers these days. Some students really love just getting too familiar with technical things, and a lot of students do struggle with learning new tools. I guess what I really want them to walk away is not necessarily just the design or technical skill set, but ability to recognize and dissect complex problems and to make that into these achievable goals where you could actually learn the skills and build something and remain curious about what you're doing. I'm taking a quick break right before my class begins, walking down this great hallway, passing the painting and drawing studio, which I would like to take you in a minute. I really want to talk about this coffee maker, Mr. Coffee. So I like to make coffee at school because the coffees around here tend to be pretty expensive, anywhere from $3 to $5 for one, drip coffee. So that adds up really quickly. So I've discovered this coffee maker in the tiny office in the third floor of Old Main. And I'm not sure when was the last time that somebody used a coffee maker because it had a bunch of mold and different stains from the years. I like to use it just because I think it makes good coffee and it doesn't cost me very much to make coffee this way. It's a little depressing just because we don't really have a kitchen, so the coffee maker tends to be pretty nasty just because I just can't clean it very well. But it gets the job done. I would not recommend this coffee to my colleagues or my students, but I'll drink it myself. And it became a bit of a daily ritual for me to make this coffee in the office that's right next to the fax machine and old computer that's used for like grading and whatnot. And just to chill out for a minute before I start to work on the classes. So before I teach classes, I would like to be able to check my school email just to make sure that I'm not missing anything urgent if I'm not overbooked. Because the teaching days tend to be pretty packed, so I teach between 11 to 2, and then I don't really have time for lunch or break, so I need to either eat during the class or right after. And then I meet with my colleagues to talk about some of the area specific topics. And then there are usually some Zoom meetings or in person meetings. And then I try to do a little bit of my research and preparation for the next day. And then it's time to go home because it's dinner time. So while it may look like the professors are just like checking their phones and goofing around, they're actually trying to manage a bunch of projects and trying to be accountable while they're also teaching. So this is what we do behind the door in the teaching corner. I look pretty exhausted because this is the last week of the semester. A lot of things are going on in the world and also just in my personal research and life. But I try to charge up my energy before meeting the students because I want to be 100% when I'm meeting them because I also know that they're going through a lot of classes, a lot of just like work and just logistics of being a student in 2025 and different kinds of factors that make it really hard for them to focus on the classes. I tend to be a pretty strict person when it's my role for teaching, but I try to have a lot of empathy and understanding with the students who are struggling in different ways. I'm not always successful in being fully empathetic and understanding, just because I also like to stress the importance of professionalism and accountability in classrooms. But yeah, I try my best to balance the academic rigor, professionalism, and empathy with the students. So I think here I'm just like finishing my little break, about to get that sweet, sweet coffee that's just dripping so nicely. Makes my life so much more fun to have that coffee. And I'm gonna take you to a quick tour around the painting studio, which has this really incredibly beautiful high ceiling, lots of graffiti and paintings on the wall, which are actually gonna get painted over this summer, except those really large, beautiful ones. And I just love the energy here where like students are just like making their ginormous artwork. They have their little corners of paradise and they're just like making paintings and drawings and getting into the zone. I think that's what school is all about, just getting into the zone, providing that time and space for the students. So here I am filming my students talking about their final project for the interactivity class, which is a part of a digital arts program. And I taught how to use JavaScript library called P5JS, which is a fantastic tool that's created by a community of artists, designers, and engineers. For almost all of the students, it was the first time that they're learning to code or work with any kinds of programming language. So there's a steep learning curve, but I'm really happy how they were able to teach themselves and also create something really interesting. It is really difficult to learn to code for the first time, especially as art and design students who have not had a rigorous math or physics or any kinds of technical training in high school. So we have to approach these tools a little differently, because I previously have taught in more technical environments. I've taught engineering students and computer science students as well. So the approach that I like to take is through narrative and certain types of design challenges. Many of the students are excited about game and animation, and I like to leverage their interest into supporting them and motivating them to make something interesting. This time I tried to balance some of critical theory and history of art and technology along with some of the details of programming, because I recognize that many of students just lacked understanding of like the history of media art or any kinds of like contemporary art. So I talked about really historic examples such as Walter Benjamin's The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction, which is literally a 100 years old essay that still continues to be relevant to what we do. And I also try to show them different media artists, digital artists who use code and systems in interesting ways. This project in particular was really well done by Kiara Huffman, who had this idea of a game where you could navigate the game spaces and these characters respond to the changing environment. This was a rather ambitious project that I'm so happy that she realized. Like, it was really, really good example of what students can do over 15 weeks. And I think on the next video that I make, I will focus more on what it's like to move to city of Detroit from Seoul after years and years in New York City, and what it's like to explore different aspects of Michigan. There are neighboring cities, suburbs, and different area around Detroit that I'm often going to, and how that relates to my artistic research and different kinds of communities that I'm discovering. I chose Detroit because it's a very special place in America. It sometimes feels like a parallel universe to New York or Los Angeles. There's a lot of possibilities and amazing work that's being done here, and there's also just practical difficulties of being in a city that has been shrinking for many years. I think I'm interested in that contradiction and possibilities and solidarity network that exists here. So on that note, I'm going to have dinner. Bye.